Hi, everybody, my dear Astral Oracles. A joy that you're here with me. Recently, somebody asked me about the difference between awakening and ascension. So I thought I might flesh out these concepts and then also get the Weaver's perspective on it, and I'll explain more on why I find that interesting and why we're going to work with them as I introduce the channeling. But first, to look into the difference of some of these fundamental concepts that we use in the nomenclature here, and what is the difference between awakening, ascension, and enlightenment. And it wouldn't hurt to think of these concepts as the personal, the collective, and the universal spiritual union. So awakening being the personal one. This is when you become hip to the circle, so to speak. And awakening has to do with an integration of these different layers. So we usually speak of awakening once a person uh, has certain experiences that induce them to become aware of their existence as an eternal soul that's having an experience, and that sort of sets them out on the path of discovery. And that discovery has different layers. It's a discovery both in the intellectual realms for many people, reading and discovering material and getting perspectives and learning new things, and that's a lot of what we do here. It's also an opening and a discovery on the energetic and often on the bodily levels, and of course also in the circumstances and the way you live your life. You relate to yourself, to others, and um, the environment and the place you live and everything. So in that way, awakening is this sort of instigation of the beginning spiritual union, and all all beings will eventually become enlightened and everything is illuminated, but there are certain blocks in place. Consciousness flows through certain parameters that makes it so that experience can happen in the way that it's happening. And it is because there is kind of a natural rhythm to anything, and that the place that we are at any given place is the place that rhythm has carried us, as it carries us forward. And a lot of what that rhythm is also what we then call ascension, because whether or not you are personally awakening, so whether or not you are taking in more of the spiritual the concepts, and essentially becoming more in this existence of a being that is connected with and expressing its soul, the awakening process. The more you do this, the more you also add to the ascension of the collective. And the ascension of the collective is determined a lot by what we might understand as astrological factors, or these yugas, as they're called in Hinduism. So this idea of these wheels of time that are turning and determining the frequencies and qualities that consciousness can have, and how it can manifest, and how the sentient beings within that yuga eon, um, that part of the total time cycle, they can express themselves vibrationally. And at this moment when we speak of ascension, what we're speaking of is this general rising of the vibration of the spiritual frequency of our collective, and of the planet as a whole. And and that means that uh, the bottom is being lifted, so to speak. And with that means that even the frequency range where humans can move, and even people who might be residing on lower frequency ranges and engaged in rather dark and very sort of contrast experience, they're still being brought up into a place where there's more the brightness, connectivity, positivity that feeds into their reality. So in that case, it is kind of a thing where the high tide lifts all boats, or how it's uh, how it goes, to reappropriate a term from an economic idea like this idea that we are, of course, all in an interconnected system of energy, and once that energy rises, we partially have to follow along with it. But it is also affected then by the people at the other end of the frequency range, where higher frequencies then also become uh, easier and easier for vital systems to hold within this heightened frequency grid. And that means that we'll see more of what we understand as enlightened or saintly or luminous beings walking the earth. And that's a process that again then sort of raises and affects the vibration of the collective, and also of our relationship to the planet as a whole, and we're of course affecting the ecosystem. So in that way, that's also fairly vital. And this ascension then of course also implies that where you might see in eras where the vibration has been much denser, so take around the year zero for instance, that often people who have a very high vibration will be sort of snuffed out by the collective vibration, rejected by it simply because it's too high. So that's when you get the persecutions and all that grisly stuff. And then moving into enlightenment, because that's of course almost an entirely different ball game, but that's sort of the end point of the universe. So that the cosmic unity of everything is an enlightened whole, and that lies beyond time and space. So that is the universe being self-aware, and what it's doing, this great organism in which we live, is it's replicating itself from the inside within time and space, and then becoming whole with itself as it finally gazes at its own completion. And that's the final universal enlightenment, is kind of this great party of consciousness to which everyone is invited. And I mean absolutely everyone. There's no like the worst person you could imagine is also going to this party after having been through the cycle of time and unionized with the universe, so to speak. So in this merging with the universe, it becomes this a great, wow, mesmerizing, everything is connected. Did you see that? And then it goes again. But the enlightenment is a universal experience, and so it's something that it attains from all points of itself eventually. And that's when we reach into it from the human perspective. um, we are of course still emanating only a part of the mystery. The total mystery is sort of the universal thing with the all, but it this is why it also seems to both eradicate personhood. So there's no longer really any distinctive personal qualities about the person who has merged in to become one with the all, or an expression of Holy Spirit, or how you attain nirvana, or how you may perceive it or describe it. But at the same time, there is of course the paradox then, that this seems to also then be what actually enables people to act so fully in the world that they become really very defined beacons that we strive towards, and those are of course the great luminaries, the great masters of the ages that come to us in the shapes of the enlightened beings. So so those are some of the distinctions, and I hope that sort of helps. And of course, the snake, the world serpent, it bites its own tail. So the end point is the end point of awakening is of course enlightenment, and then enlightenment leads to sort of the awakened being, and that's when the merging of all the universe then moves back into the beginning of the hero's journey, which is the fool, and that's the sacred fool is the embodiment of the all, and of the course, as the song goes, right, the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head sees the world spinning round. So in like they knew what was up for a while there, at least them guys in that band in the late 60s. And so we are kind of guided by this vision, these oracular messages that brought us on into awakening, and it's a fun flow to follow. So with that, I'll step aside and I'll move into channeling the weavers, and I'm quite intrigued by them lately. Partially that they are, of course, an entity that um, they've just established contact to me at some point years ago. So I'm not aware of anybody else channeling them, and they're very alive and vivid to me. But the reason I'm very drawn to them at the moment is also that my sense of it is that we have let's call it masculine or a very personhood conception of ascension, awaken, enlightenment. These ideas that I use the term hero's journey, for instance, with the arcana, and this idea of sort of the singular person who breaks free and then merges with the all and steps back into the world to release the collective, and which is a kind of a very one-pointed singular focus, which we often connect with the masculine archetype, and they represent a conscious or a contrast point because they are a collective species, and they began as a collective species, and that's how they've moved forward and into it. And you might sense that about the feminine intelligence, and its archetype is that it has this uh, what's the word, almost like ambilocal, like it's present in many places at once, and you get that sense that it's as if she's doing something in every, with every finger she's performing a task at the same time, and for some reason she knows what's going on in all of the corners of the village at the same time as well, and she's on track of everything, and that's a different type of awareness and consciousness, and it's a lot of what we're cultivating and what's stirring us as a humanity at the moment are these types of um, web like interconnections of awareness, where we all seem to be lifted into a collective realization. So that's the ascension. With that, I hope you have a happy Ascension Day if that's your observance, and then also just a lovely Thursday or whenever you see this. I wish you much love and light out there. We are the weavers, we are the weavers, we are the weavers. And we weave webs, well, see, even in these configurations, as we greet you with love, there are patterns strung out. We made one of these patterns quite obvious to human baseline awareness. That is, we played around with what you call an alliteration. And since we also know that the W in and of itself is a bit fun to play around with for our friend here, we sensed that this might be a way to show you how we like to layer and dense codes and condense codes. So this is the idea that within every singularity or point, there is a way, quite a unique way, that the information of the entirety of the universe is stored. And it's stored in a specific pattern that makes it so that the singular point, and you have different words for this, but let's use the term monads. We sense that our friend here is comfortable with it. So you could also think of subatomic particles or the indivisible atoms of Democritus, these ideas of the very, very smallest units. But consider that these units then consider that they condense and contain within them a specific pattern of the all. They fulfill a specific position that's unique to them. And then the reflection of the all is also unique to them. And it is exactly for this realization, the merging of the universal and the specific, that the universe is intertwining with itself and creating this world of differences that we are a part of and that we experience as such a harmonic interplay of fond rapture. It can be a little hard not to be caught up in the strong and often overwhelming torrents of love and emotion that are connected to this world below. Because what we also come to communicate to you, human beings, is that we are, from your perspective, very alien. When we once were physical, we would have seemed to you wholly alien. To conjure up a physical image for you that you might relate to, something not too dissimilar from your starfish and your ants. Consider a combined species of those. And you might think that we, being so different from you, didn't relate to humanoid emotion. But what we come to show you and share with you is also that emotion is a universal texture. So it speaks to the frequencies that are moving through a given specific time space. And this is something that your general narrative of reality, your present scientific worldview, has to come to terms with, because it's built an image of the world as a type of random rocky outcropping, and that then has some legends growing on it, random places. Perhaps occasionally it's hit by a hailstorm or some other weather phenomenon. There might be some puddles with a bit of bacteria hiding somewhere. But this is essentially your image of the universe, that it's a dead place with some random outcroppings of slightly higher organized matter that you call life on it, possibly only here in this speck of dust of the entirety. But this isn't true. This is also why what you refer to as the Fermi paradox, or this idea why you aren't communicating or receiving messages from other species who are as engaged in discovering you as them. Well, how long have you used radio technology? How long do you think it took species who even made the journey to discover radio waves to make the realization that the intertwined textures of the universe were of an emotional and resonant quality? And it was through the mastery of these types of frequencies that interspecies communication was to be achieved. Well, it has taken you about a generation, we would say, not even that. And we don't mean to offend you, but we, for instance, never even took the journey around radio waves. We found it unnecessary in our explorations. We are also, again, a collective species that extends itself physically through smaller members of an aware hive mind. And through that, it's also, we would say, easier for us to rapidly adapt to changing circumstances than it is for human bodies, where you often have to wait for generational displacement for these things to take place. And a lot of the problem of what has been then referred to you or promised to you as the resurrection of the flesh is taking place at the moment. And the problem you are having is that so many of you are experiencing very radical changes to your physical frequencies, your physical bodies and structures in this lifetime. So, and so this change in your species from being somebody, or from being a species that undergoes change from generational links to being a species that undergoes change within specific individuals, that is one that is rapid and remarkable, both to you and to other beings. So for that reason, we also assist in changing the energy grids around you. We would like to let you know that, well, as we have made the full ascension path and made it to the 11th dimension, the parameters that surround which interactions can be had with humankind are quite strict. That is, understand that it would be well within the power of beings that are far less powerful than us, but far more powerful than you, to destroy you. That is, if you consider exactly power to be the ability to destroy. But those things are not allowed for, and they are also not a part of the motivational set of beings that are aligned with these higher capabilities of power, because power is the ability to conduct energy. And this is why, as you awaken personally, you begin to be able to conduct more energy. As you begin to awaken collectively, you become an energy conducting circuit. And then, as we move into the enlightenment of the universe, you will find that all of us that are completed in this process have moved into realization and union with our 11th dimensional template, that we are still awaiting and assisting the rest of the universe in this process, because as you are lifted up into this grid of awareness, the universe can become whole and we can complete the process. And this is our joy, our exuberance. This is what we're here for. This is what you're here for. This is the shared being of the universe. And so friend here was hesitating because the thing we were communicating to him didn't really have a clear expression in human language, and in particular in this human language, because all the words that were coming up were implying a type of intent, a type of idea that it was doing this because it wanted something, but it isn't. This is simply the necessity of how things must be. And so this is also why there is no displacement of anything, that even consciousness residing on lower layers are also a part of the entire construction, because these fulfill the darkened part of the universe that must be illuminated, just as the light sources fulfill the purpose of the universe that must give off light to see. So in that way, the eye needs the world to behold, and the world needs the eye to see it. And this is the divine cosmic dance that plays out always and forever. And so you can personally get off at whatever stage of awakening you like. You can use this awareness of yourself as an eternal being for a lot of detours or exploration of certain human skills or powers and endeavors. And this too is meaningful. And this too is something that you are completely allowed to do, and that is a part of your soul's freedom to explore. But all these pursuits, of course, are examinations that ultimately lead up to the crescendo, the great union, where the very searchlight that drove you to look and see and turn over all these things will finally turn on itself, and light will become matter, and matter will become light. With a love so profound, so ceaseless, so deep, so limitless, and so unconditional, that we can only extend it to you as an open invitation, a reminder of your true being. We part ways from you this day, thanking you for the 10,000 miracles you have shown us in this moment and in all moments. In love, we are the weavers, we are the weavers, we are the weavers. Weave well. Farewell, friends. I hope that served you. Much love out there, guys.